Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2-for-1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
Today's episode 138 of Podcast 2-for-1. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. Assuming you're on YouTube, the best place to consume the content, youtube.com/2for1studios. I already said the best place to consume the content.
Well, it is. It's worth repeating, right? Come on.
It is.
Listen, you're in the middle of moving. There's no Nathan Drake statue behind you. Like,
there's not.
It's it makes sense that you're a little off your game. You know, you're not in your zen.
End of an era. Indeed. This will be the last podcast. Well, we may sneak in one next week. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, after this one though, we have a national podcast. You might say, it's spanning.
We've gone
a little bit
global,
of the nation between Arkansas and Oklahoma.
You're right.
In between, there's only just more Arkansas and Oklahoma. There's only no other states in between. But it's across.
I haven't really told anyone I'm moving other than like you and two of the boys.
Yep.
So you heard it here first, listeners. I'm moving to Oklahoma. If you listen to this podcast, I was going to say real quick. I'm hoping next week we can do Black Adam, maybe. Well, not next week. It'll be the week after, but I don't know. I don't know when this drops. I just don't know. We'll see what happens. Not too concerned about it. Anyway, you didn't know, and I bet you didn't. We are sponsored by K.E.V.I.N Comics, located at 4047 East Hill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. And they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and my mic is doing the thing again. Just tell me. No one listens to the show. I heard you typing.
I was trying to, give you an opportunity to throw it to me. Then you could switch it out, like while I was talking, and
Gotcha.
I'm just trying to run a professional show here. I thought that was the standards. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it must be the cord or something. We'll get it figured out. As I'm moving, I will buy a new cord, and then this will not be an issue. I hope. But yes, if you didn't know, and you probably did not, we are sponsored by K.E.V.I.N Comics, located at 4047 East Hill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow!
Kapow! Daniel, it's episode 138 of Podcast 2-for-1, and we're talking She-Hulk. Now, yesterday I woke up bright and early, poured my cup of coffee. Today is the finale of She-Hulk, right? So we're dating the podcast today. It's the day after the finale dropped. And I watched it, and I sent you guys, I need to stay over 2 minutes and process this. I need to have the Marvel gods rub my shoulders for a minute and then think about what I just watched. And I think I've come out the other side thinking they shit the bed a little bit. So I've been pretty warm on the show so far this whole season. I've been a defender of it in a lot of ways, and there's obviously things that's been bothering me, but I think they went a little too far, and I think, honestly, our own writing that we've been doing independently outside of the podcast, I think that kind of informed me how I felt, because I felt like we're doing so much more constructive things than what they're doing, and they're getting paid to do this, and they have the time to do this. And so I think us writing independently, I'm not saying we're the best writers ever, but I'm saying that I think we took
could
more
be,
time.
There's no proof that we aren't.
That's true.
And so
you said it, not me. But I think that there's fundamental questions that will be brought up in this that I don't know if the writers asked. So, real quick, general thoughts. Besides getting into spoilers, I want to work through those in a second.
Sure.
What's your? How do you feel about this? I have no idea what you feel about it. I've been waiting. So.
Sure. Yeah, it's a mess. It is just all over the place in tone. We're gonna get to. They basically circumvent. I guess they see the meta kind of element of the show as a way to circumvent plot progression and character arcs and things like that. Which is, I would not use meta to circumvent core tenets of narrative storytelling in Hollywood style. But yeah, I think this I've been a little more lukewarm than you have on the show to this point.
Sure.
And I think this finale just kind of cemented this show as like, when I think about She-Hulk, I think of a giant mess of ideas that many were half-baked. They had some interesting highs, and I think, there's going to be a couple things that we talk about in this episode that are interesting and like, ask interesting questions about the future. But yeah, man, this show is just all over the place, and I guess the finale is fitting in that in a way of that.
I think this podcast is going to be kind of like our other Marvel podcast, where we're going to talk about She-Hulk, and then we're going to kind of dive into just the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general. And we kind of have to based on the finale. But I do want to remind you that our listeners don't know what our thoughts are on even the penultimate episode, the episode before that. And we don't have to dive too deep into that because, we've only done first episode. I think we did like a mid-season kind of break. But I do think it's important to talk about the thing that did work for me in the show, and the thing that I think we were all excited about the most, which is Daredevil.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and he makes an appearance, so it's relevant too.
He does make an appearance in the finale, yes. But let's talk about that episode real quick. So I think, to me, that is obviously the best episode of the show, besides maybe the first episode. But I think, I love my boy Charlie Cox. Daredevil is fantastic. I love the Netflix show, and I think that Charlie Cox, is just a pitch perfect casting for it. We saw him teed up in Spider-Man No Way Home. He comes back in here, and every time he's on camera, he nails it. It's like he's like Downey and like Chris Evans and kind of like Tom Holland and all those guys. He's like someone that, like, when they talk, you kind of pay attention to them on screen, and he has an earnestness to him. He's witty. He's quick. I know there's a lot of pushback in the show, or amongst the fan base, like, oh, this guy is too smiley, or he's quippy, or MCU's dumbed him down a little bit. I feel differently. Netflix obviously took a really dark and gritty route with him, which totally works, and the comics are absolutely baked in that too. But Daredevil is a lot, to me, he reminds me a lot of the Flash in terms of DC Universe, where he's someone that can get dark, but no matter what, he's always smiling. Like, he's always got a grin on, even during a fight. And I mean, it's kind of like some even the motifs we saw in the Netflix show, the marketing, like he'd be smiling with like drip of blood going down his mouth, Yeah. And to me, that's Daredevil. It's finding the hope amongst the street level darkness and Kingpin and everything else. And so I loved it. I loved the costume. I loved him coming in, his banter with Jennifer Walters. I loved their chemistry.
It was good.
I mean, I liked it all. I mean, there was a little twinge whenever She-Hulk comes through the hallway and interrupts that scene, and it was kind of like, okay, I know you're subverting expectations, which we'll get into in a minute in the finale.
Sure.
But it still kind of was like, I don't know. It's one of those things like when Marvel has a tendency to build up something really cool and they undercut it with a joke or something. It's like it takes the coolness away. It's okay to have coolness sometimes. But yeah, I love the episode. I love that particular episode.
Yeah, and shout out to doing a hallway fight scene with Daredevil. I think that was a kind of just like that's his fight scene was in another hallway, which is like kind of the most iconic scenes from the Netflix show were like hallway fight scenes. In terms of like things they heralded to, and I thought that was just kind of a nice like paying homage even to like Charlie Cox's origin of coming from the Netflix shows. You
even hear his like theme music a little bit at certain points, like the same music from the Netflix show. So I mean, like
I liked it. I think like you said, like it is way different than the Netflix version of him, but I wasn't as big on the Netflix version of him. I found him a bit sometimes overly melancholic or like just a little too emo, and like kind of like the way he would like poetic, like wax poetic about his emo-ness sometimes to certain characters would just didn't connect with me, didn't feel real. And I actually think I like this. I like getting a different kind of Daredevil. You know what I mean? I like getting a happy, jokey, kind of is light. His tone is light. His tone is like very playful. And for me, it's just, I think I'm just interested to see what else they might do with him. You know what I mean? Because I think the Netflix did the Brooding one, and it did it well. I mean, I think I maybe I just don't connect to the broodingness as much as some people. Maybe I just don't brood, and I love to brood like everyone else in the world does.
I like a good brooding, honestly. I like a good brooding.
Yeah, I mean once a month maybe, but like all the time. Come on. So yeah, but I really enjoyed the episode. I think it was probably the best episode of the season. Even just in terms of, I don't think this is a discredit to Tatiana Maslany's character or acting. I think this is more to a criticism of the writing, but I think she did better sharing the screen with another superhero than she did maybe carrying some of it by herself. And I think, again, I actually think her acting is pretty consistently good throughout the show. It's more of just what she has to work with. I'm pretty consistently disappointed with.
No, I see that. I mean, the chemistry between them is great, and obviously where that leads to is it's fun and exciting to think about, just because it's like a fun thing, right, for fans. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting how Charlie Cox. There's a few things here. One of my buddies sent me a message and was like, "It's so weird that Charlie Cox comes in here and like out lawyers her, and she's supposed to be an amazing lawyer, and like she doesn't ask basic questions to her client.
Yeah,
that she seems very unprepared, and she doesn't look a very great lawyer, honestly. And it's not because I don't think she isn't. It's just because the writers sometimes make her good and sometimes make her really bad, and it's like." I
agree. This was a horrible law show. The law in this whole thing sucked. Like it almost.
And the best part was Charlie Cox.
Yeah, and I don't really consider it a law show. Like I feel like we were in the courtroom for like 2 or 3 set pieces, but they were not. They didn't feel like courtroom scenes. It didn't feel like courtroom drama. And maybe I guess our just expectations were just totally off base to expect some courtroom drama in a lawyer show or a lawyer superhero show. But yeah, I mean, I think that for me is probably the most just like disappointing thing about the show as a whole, is that like I was really hoping to get this different version that's like a law drama, and maybe that is, maybe that's the 18 episode Daredevil season, but like we could have had both, and like I just that to me is like, you made her an attorney, but like you did nothing with that was ever interesting. You waffled between she's good and then she's not for like comedic or plot reasons kind of thing.
Well, no, I mean, and that's the thing too, is a couple things. One, they were to be fair for them, they were very clear this is not a law show early on in the episodes, not like before it come out, but early on. I think that's another thing that we keep doing as the fans. We keep putting our own what this should be, our own expectations ahead of time.
You're right.
And typically, what we want is typically better than what they give us. Not all the time. Sometimes Endgame, Infinity War will kind of blow. Mainly Infinity War will go in there and just blow your socks off, and you're like, they gave me things I didn't know I needed, which is always the best thing to do, right? But I think a lot of times it seems like lately we're getting whatever they think is cool, which is sometimes for us not cool, right? And they're doing this, and they are. Well,
really, it also feels like it feels like they're just also just following trends so hard, like with trying to be relevant, trying to be trendy, trying to reach I mean,
subscribers,
to some degree,
honestly.
Maybe they should be, is like they've hooked our generation on Marvel and a lot of us in Star Wars. I think they're probably looking at like our kids, or the kids are a little older than them, that are like, how do we make sure the next generation of 12-year-olds love Iron Man as much as this past one did? And I get it, and I get that superheroes are primarily a kid, a youth product. But sometimes it does feel like they're just chasing trends, like not clout, like trend chasing, just to have relevance, or the celebrities that keep making it into all of these Star Wars and Marvel shows, that feel just.
No, I'm a little different than I've been baked in since I was a kid. Like I've been buying, I've been reading Iron Man since I was 6 or 7, and I've been buying Spider-Man since whatever. Before then, like Matt would always buy Iron Man before Iron Man was ever a popular thing. He was like a B-list hero or C-list hero.
Sure.
Like he was not huge until the movie came out.
No.
But the thing is, like, even at 15 and 16, whenever Iron Man 1 came out, it's kind of like the thing that those had that these aren't really doing lately is that they have an arc. And to be fair, the MCU also faltered in some places. Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2. They don't always stick the landing in terms of arc, but they always kind of did so more than not up until Endgame. I feel like now, and there's still exceptions, but I feel like these characters aren't getting strong arcs. Eternals is a hard one because it's ensemble cast already against you, so it's hard to get strong arcs, which it's still pretty
Sure.
weak in Eternals. Like, it's not like super strong, right? It's you got to lead the team basically. That one, Doctor Strange, is pretty weak. It's you got to be okay not being okay. If that's even it, I guess
It's muddy. It's muddy. Very muddy.
It's very muddy. Thor is. What is Thor's?
I mean, yeah, like that's like.
I mean,
child labor can be okay sometimes.
Well, or to.
That's what I would go with.
I guess don't close yourself off to love. I guess, right? I guess that would be it.
Oh, I guess. I mean, that's only ever given to us in narration, so that's like the narrator's arc, like that he tells us is happening. But yeah, don't get me started on how much that movie is disappointing.
I want to feel shitty, is what he says, implying that he wants to open up the gates to love because he's been hurt so many times. Which I can see it there, but it just doesn't track.
The movie doesn't support it at all.
No, Spider-Man is pretty good. Obviously, with great power comes great responsibility. That was Spider-Man. Spider-Man learned his main thing ever in his third movie, which tells you the problems in the first two movies. But the third movie finally stuck the landing in terms of he learned what he needed to learn to, that's pretty fucking solid. They did great on that one. Shang-Chi is a little. It's more about it's more about accepting who you are and not running from your past, but I don't think Shang-Chi changes at all. It's like he really just accepts his destiny and not really actually becomes a different person, other than like obviously
by accepting his destiny.
Yeah, but it's different versus like Tony Stark, where he's becoming less selfish and right, and I'm saying it's different. Shang-Chi already starts off an amazing martial artist, right? I mean, and we still get Shang-Chi a pass typically. Anyway, you can see that there's some disparity here in the MCU going on. She-Hulk, the problem with it is that ultimately in the finale, the show kept saying, okay, and they were actually, I think they said it almost too much, was like the dual identity thing is right. Like, is it okay to be Jennifer Walters? Like, is Jennifer Walters not as fun or cool as She-Hulk? And then is She-Hulk, like, do I want to be She-Hulk? Right. And then she had her name taken away and kind of like, I do like my name actually. Like, and she ends up correcting people because of that. Like, I actually take ownership of that. And she ends up kind of liking the, all these other things. Right. So, but by the end of it, let's talk about this now, finally.
Yes.
The show, we've ended on the penultimate episode where she's at the gala and she's getting Best Lawyer of the Year, which is, don't know why. Obviously the show doesn't agree with that she's the Best Lawyer of the Year. And she gets assaulted in the fact that she put up Josh, I guess, like they recorded them having sex, right? And so she loses it, and she ends up hulking out, right? Which kind of calls back to the first episode, like, no, you don't control your anger. And everyone kind of gets scared of her, which I kind of also didn't buy a little bit because
she broke.
I'm
when I started the finale episode, she starts out in that same like jail thing that Emil's in, and I was like, wait a minute, did something else happen at the end of last episode that would have like demanded she be locked up in this chamber, like that people that murder people are in, other than breaking some TVs? You know what I mean? Like. And I was I was like, did I miss an end credit sequence where they're like a bumper that justifies this? And I was like, no, she just broke TVs and in the episode ended, and now she's in, super jail.
Because they're scared of her, and like our response is, you can't. We're gonna put.
You're never allowed to Hulk again because you broke some TVs.
Yeah, and Bruce Banner is your cousin, who's the Hulk, and obviously is proven to the world, and he's actually revered in Endgame as being like a superhero. Finally, kids are asking for his autograph.
Yeah,
and so if you're saying that if she can't do it, why can he do? I mean, like,
it doesn't
already
make any sense. It was so weak,
super weak, right? And like, I think she was kind of tame for kind of what happened, honestly. Like, that's kind of a horrible thing to happen. Like, people watch you have sex on a giant television screen with all your coworkers and
I don't
a
think
bunch of
there's
dickheads.
anyone in that audience that wouldn't be like, yeah, smash those fucking TV. Like, I mean,
Right.
like that. It's like it makes the world feel like it's full of cartoonish people that have no nuance or like where they're just, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I just feel like they tried to do this thing of like, I guess making us feel like we agree or like understand why people are afraid of her, like whatever this thing is. But yeah, it was super weak, and then and at that point it just feels like, well, they just wanted to do this because of what they do later, right? Like that was the only point. It was not, yeah.
Yes. So then she is, we kind of get a quick montage of, court cases, or not in court cases, but like the media cycle, her, agreeing to wear a band or everything else. And then we cut to, she basically wants to go to a meal because she's having a hard time, which we were set up a couple episodes beforehand.
Yes.
Which I don't think we talked about. Real quick, I mean,
that was the one where she fights the other dudes, like the pig guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the therapy group, whatever. But it's the problem I ultimately have with the show, which we'll get to more, is that we're just introduced to character after character that I don't care about. That feels like I guess mutants are already here. I mean, obviously they dropped it again in the show, but like mutants and like Asgardians and all these. I mean, like I know Asgardians are around because of their new Asgard is there, but they've chosen the most uninteresting way to integrate them into the society.
Yeah.
Like the most again, I'm going back to Thor: Love and Thunder, fucking Infinity Cone ice cream. It's like that's the most uninteresting. Again, it's like having a Nazi symbol on an ice cream cone place, and it's like,
it's just
we're
more
going to
and more
celebrate
of the world not taking itself seriously, and so I can't take it seriously either.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like, it does make me feel like when the show does try to get serious, or the universe tries to get serious later, will that be undercut a bit by the buildup that had this kind of just tone of, I don't know, like just didn't give a shit, like just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like it just feels like there's this element of like, oh, you can do whatever. Don't there's no rules.
Well, then, like it used to be a big deal, when we were watching a movie, and like example, Sokovia Accords was a big thing about Civil War. And every time we got like a line of dialogue in Infinity War or Endgame, we were like having articles dissecting like, okay, what's the state of the universe? Because like, is the Sokovia Accords enact? Are they not enact? But now Matt Murdock says it in a one-half comment. Everyone knows the Sokovia Accords are not a thing anymore. It's like, they're not. And like, that happened. I mean, like, I get why they're not, because the Avengers obviously saved the world, and it kind of proved the fact that they needed them.
Yes.
That's such a huge thing in the universe to wave it off like that I think it's like, it's just lazy. It's like they're doing so much off screen. Like the MCU has done so much off screen in Phase 4 from Miss Marvel. Like again, like it used to be like, oh, every character would open up a new sect of the world in the universe, and then we would discover that world. Like they were like the genesis of that type of genre, right? They weren't a character that was discovering like other characters like them, and like they were being accepted, right? Shang-Chi is like an example where it's a little better, right? He's a character that exhibits a genre. He's finding more places. But Captain Marvel's a bad one where it's like, okay, here's a character, and there's all these other I'm gonna say tribes of people and sects and superheroes and like genies and everything else has been operating forever. And it's like, it feels like all these things are happening off camera in a way that it's not satisfying. So she goes to Emil Blonsky, and a perfect storm happens, right? Where it turns out the Hulk King, who is the guy that planted the terrorist thing, who's been gathering her blood, right?
Right.
They appear. Apparently, Blonsky's doing for free because he likes to get money appearances as the Abomination to inspire people, and he has apparently no association with this Hulk King group. He just wants the money, and
he has really no idea what they're like are about.
Exactly, which is really dumb, right?
Yeah, it's just
It's really bad. And also, it's like, okay, so you're going to transform into the Abomination to give a speech to people you don't know.
And they also
Anyway.
don't like even explain how he's able to do this without the like ankle bracelet being notified or whatever. Like I mean, like how?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
that's
I don't
never
know.
addressed.
I don't remember if that was taken off of him, and he was kind of like, it's taken off now. And no,
I
I
thought he
guess
still
no.
had it on.
The whole episode was that guy coming to fix it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy. Yeah, the guy was coming to fix
Yes.
it, and then he's like, oh, sorry, something happened.
The guy
Which
from
obviously
Barry.
was a thing that implied that he was turned into the Abomination still, right? So
Of
that was
course,
confirmed.
yes.
But we don't know. Whatever. So anyway. And then, of course, I can't think of the dickhead's name, but the guy who was, obviously the stupid rich kid. I think they ended up suing her. Todd, sure, that makes sense. Todd, who like had the date with her, and he kind of liked her, but he didn't like her, and then because he's insecure, so he's the Hulk King, and of course he gets the blood, which was teed up early in the show, which we all kind of thought that maybe the leader might show up. Which again, that's us doing expectations.
You're right.
But they just announced the leader for Captain America 4, Abomination's in this show, who created the leader essentially. And I mean, you're getting the blood, and the leader was all about getting the blood in the Incredible Hulk. And anyway, so it's Todd. He hulks out, which is pretty ridiculous looking.
It doesn't look good. A lot of CGI in this last episode did not look good.
No, and they put a lantern on that particular thing. But Abomination also is just like...
We'll get to how tone deaf that is later.
Yeah. You know what's not cool? Is Abomination... Like, obviously they changed his look from the movie to the show, which is whatever. He's more comic accurate now, but he was pretty mean looking in the movie, right?
Yeah.
But now he's got the voice still of Emilio Blonsky. It's like he's like a Smart Hulk situation, right? I don't remember if they ever explained. I guess he just zenned himself.
Well, did he ever lose control like Hulk did? I don't remember that in the movie.
Yeah,
I almost feel like he was still talking to Hulk while he was in Abomination form.
He did talk, but he's like a monster. Like
he talked like a monster. It sounded like.
But he looks like Abomination, who looks less cool to me.
Yeah.
And has a normal human voice. It's just stupid. That's stupid.
It's just done for comedic relief. Yeah.
It's hard enough to have. I mean, Smart Hulk is kind of a hard sell. It kind of makes sense because you're combining the two people, but like, at least Bruce Banner has like a kind of a deeper kind of bravo to his voice, so you can kind of get away with it. He's Smart Hulk. He's wearing glasses and shit. Abomination's like Abomination. Like he's. And then the thing happens that it set the internet on fire. Daniel, can you tell our viewers what happens, please?
The show goes full meta, and Jen jumps out of her show on the Disney Plus home UI screen and jumps in. Was it behind the scenes? Is that what she jumps into?
I don't remember. Maybe it was.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. But then basically goes to the writer's room and complains about the plot. And then goes and finds Kevin, who we all assume to be K.E.V.I.N, but ends up being a AI that is in
funny
control.
That it's got a hat like K.E.V.I.N. That's funny. Like, I get that.
And then she just changes everything about the finale and just wraps everything up kind of in a meta sense, and then jumps back in and the show's over. That's in a nutshell, right?
It's a nutshell, yeah. So, as it was all happening, I was very interested and intrigued. And I was like, whoa, they're actually doing this. And like, I don't know what this means and how I feel about this. And when it was all said and done, I was kind of like, again, I needed 2 minutes to think about it. And I was like, this is not good. This is not a good idea. And to be fair, there's precedent in the comic for this. In her comic, she literally goes to like the editor, Marvel in chief at one point to like fix her comic. It's like at the end of her run, her comic run, one of her original runs. Sure. This happens. So it's absolutely precedent. But even then, it's still a really iffy thing to do, even in that medium. Because it's like, again, what are the rules? How does this work? How did any of this work?
Yeah, I mean it's a mess, right? Because I mean, for one, just like I mentioned earlier, it just literally easy buttons all of the conflict of the finale, right? Like the conflict of the show disappears. Everything it was building to is immediately easy buttoned, essentially through conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. I think the execution is bad execution. I think when she's talking to the writers and they have this weird dialogue kind of about like criticism of the writing of superheroes, and it's like they're trying to subvert that, but then like that would be interesting if this show had been good up to now. And like we've been written really well and they were doing unconventional things. But at this point it just feels like a self-own. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels like they're burning themselves, that like they made this meta joke about how Marvel writing is repetitive and how they're trying to change it up, but then they changed it up and it got worse. And so it's almost like if you can't, honestly stick to the formula if that's the only way you can do it. You know what I mean? Almost. But I feel like, yeah, that whole moment was just weird. And then I think once we get to Kevin, and I just want to highlight the whole VFX team joke, which obviously was written before,
which doesn't feel good now.
It doesn't matter. You change it, right? Like that's a joke you take out in the context of what's been going on. Like if I'm a VFX worker and I'm like at Disney and I watch this, or I help fucking animate this, and I'm like, well, they can't pay us enough, but they'll use us for punchlines, kind of thing. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck, Disney? The tone deafness is just resonating. You know what I mean? And it being like, oh yeah, we can't afford to show her transforming. You can't afford to pay your staff a living wage either. Okay, no one gives a fuck if you can't afford to pay her transforming on screen. I just think it was just like it dumbfounded me that it was left in, because those jokes probably could have been cut out like relatively easily without maybe a little ADR or something. But like, yeah, it was.
Question is, who? I mean, obviously, maybe one of the visual effects people would know that they cut it out, and then would that be a story too? Though, like, hey, they cut this out, so obviously they agreed.
It probably would have. It probably.
You know what I'm saying?
That you're right.
That was.
You're right.
Maybe they're. I mean, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying. But I'm now seeing all the possibilities. Like, oh, maybe they were like, "Fuck, we have to keep it in, or we're gonna get." Like, I don't know.
I could see that. And if they, but man, and so you just go from. Let's easy button all the conflict. So there's really no resolution. The resolution is just go meta and change it like in an instant. You have these weird conversations that are kind of trying to kind of critique Marvel formula without fully actually doing it. And then you have this tone deaf scene with a K.E.V.I.N AI that not only was it tone deaf and does it just like immediately easy button the plot, it just didn't like, wasn't that funny or anything to me either. Like it felt like it was kind of throw in these jokes or like make these meta, like it felt like it was, the whole thing was kind of trying to be self-depreciating humor.
Yeah.
In a way that like is sometimes endearing, but none of it landed in that way. All of it landed as cringe and tone deaf. And that is like the worst version of how you could do this meta kind of thing.
Yeah. I did chuckle whenever we heard the Wakanda music. Whenever they said the VFX team has moved on. That's funny. I chuckled.
Yes, and you know what? I chuckled, and it was a silly joke, but I chuckled when she's like, "I'm gonna go see Kevin," and the guy was like, "I will murder you to protect Kevin." Like that was a funny line and just kind of random. And I was like, "Oh, that made me chuckle." Nothing else though. Like almost like
I mean, there's funny things sprinkled throughout this. I think my issues is what does it mean for the universe, and like also what does it mean for her character, and also what actually happened at the end. Let's keep going here. So she's like, here's what I want. I want everyone to basically pay, like, to, get their comeuppance. Like, I want everyone to pay for their sins, right?
I want to get rid of the blood storyline. That's just gone.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Does Josh not exist anymore, I guess?
He got arrested. Then he got arrested at the end.
No, that's Todd. Josh's
sorry.
boyfriend that stole the
Josh.
blood, or the fake
Oh yeah,
boyfriend that stole the
Josh.
blood.
Sorry, I was thinking.
I don't think he showed up in the finale, which is weird.
No, he didn't.
Which is strange. He would have been a good person to show up. Like,
but then but there's like, oh, more Daredevil. Which I mean, I agree with the sentiment, obviously. But then, like in the finale, he just like shoot, he pops in. It's
and
like,
I will say, I did appreciate all of the jokes that she was making about banging Matt Murdock. I kind of thought that was pretty.
Yeah,
fun.
hey,
yeah, I like.
Anytime you're talking about Daredevil or Matt Murdock or showing him on screen, you're pulling on me. You're pulling on my heart a little bit. So kudos to you being aware of my love for that. Obviously,
yeah.
I mean, clearly they put it in the fucking trailer that he went in there until the last 2 episodes. So 3 months ago, 4 months ago, the trailer dropped or longer. But yeah, I mean, like, part of it is, and then let's talk about this. They're at a barbecue again, and it's just like, oh, I have a son, and it's Skaar, which we talked about on the show. But he looks like, I saw someone comment, it looks like Santa Monica Dude Bro Hulk, and I was
he looked like an orc. He looked like an orc.
Yeah, we had like the worst. Looked like someone had the worst VFX bald cap I've ever seen. That's what someone said.
Yeah, I thought he looked like an orc from World of Warcraft.
Sure. Yeah,
that's what I thought he looked like.
He is like in the comics. Skaar is like, he's like Hulk but worse. I mean, like he's
more evil.
Yeah, I mean he's not even evil, but he's just like he's traumatic. Like he's born. He thinks both of his parents are dead. And he grows up faster than he's supposed to because of the gamma blood. So he grows up quicker, and he has to survive on this really hostile planet. He's like the savage Hulk, and like he's got long hair like a barbarian.
Sure.
And he's like, I mean, he's a pretty cool character.
Yeah.
But it's like, and it clearly looks like he can also talk. I mean, we don't know. He doesn't have a single line of dialogue, and it's literally like
you would assume though.
It's like 3. Yeah, basically, he looks like he's kept up, right?
Can he transform into a human, or is he like always in Hulk form?
He can transform into a human, yes.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't know, man. It was the worst way to introduce that, and they also did kind of teed up. It looks like that we might get a movie about like the end of dialogue between him and K.E.V.I.N.
Yes.
Like it seems like we're getting a movie about that. They haven't announced yet, based on that conversation.
Yes.
Again, the most uninteresting way to do that. Like,
yes,
it would have been fine just to have Bruce leave and then let us have this conversation. Like, what's he doing? Obviously, it's Skaar, right? And like then show that in a movie or something, or show that in the end credit scene. Like, shows Hulk landing on a planet, and he's like, you see like someone attack him, and it's Skaar, and he looks fucking mean as hell, and it's like Bruce versus Skaar, and it cuts. It's just. I don't know, Daniel.
It's just like it almost feels like the best idea is never winning anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe there just aren't any more best. Maybe it's. I have to hope and believe these aren't the best ideas that are coming up with. These are the ideas they end up having to go with because of who knows what factors or producers or mandates are being handed down or whatever's going on. But like, it just feels like. Because it's just hard for me to believe a writing room full of people thought this was the coolest way to do it, or like
that's the problem
way to do it.
Is that you always got to ask yourself, like, whenever we're done writing our second draft of our feature, Daniel, I'm going to sit there and go, is there a cooler thing we can do here and here and here? Like you don't. And the answer typically is yes, and obviously there's like what's too cool or what's too much or too extravagant or whatever, but.
It's just like they're going with, does it work? Cool, let's go. Like they're never asking, is there something better?
Yeah. Here's what she says, the showrunner of the show, Jessica Gao. She said, I think I probably wrote like 20 versions of a finale that went all over the place, and I started feeling like, well, this is a Marvel show. I better give them the classic Marvel ending. Big villain fight, big finale, but it never felt right because I was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Kevin was like, why? Why? No one's telling you to do that. You don't have to do that. You can do something completely different. We should do something completely different because this show is so different from anything that Marvel has ever done. And then she said, from day one, you're skipping some stuff. From day one, we've been very upfront about and honest about what kind of show this is, what the expectations for the show will be. And for some reason, people love to not believe that, even though we've been telling them for months now that this is what the show is going to be.
What is that? What is, I mean, like bad? Poorly written?
I think she means
A
subverting
mess of ideas
expectations,
that are all
and like,
half-baked?
but the meta thing is sprinkled throughout the show, but
And
it
let's not
completely
forget,
goes off the rail.
we've already had WandaVision did meta. Wanda literally looks at the screen at one point, I'm pretty sure in those later episodes, and has this moment where she like asks this, like, I think it's the one where it's like the Office episode where they're doing like interviews and she's like being interviewed off screen like it's an Office style sitcom, but it's like she's actually talking to like us as the audience a couple times, and it has this weird moment where just it happens and then it goes away and it's almost just like this mysterious kind of like thing.
Sure.
And like I think I get that like WandaVision isn't a comedy, right? That was a pure drama and suspense show, right? And this is a comedy. And you can't, I mean, if you're going to do a meta comedy, it just looks different. But I just think I was just never too impressed with it. It just always felt like, let's be meta to be meta. You know what I mean? Let's just do it.
I'm
to be
okay with
different.
her looking at the camera and talking every night. Like that, to me, that's fine because that's in the comics. I still think it's kind of iffy just because
I think it was
again,
overused, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I see. I think if for the finale it wasn't used enough. For the finale they gave us, it was not used enough. Like we were not prepared for that kind of finale.
Well,
And
okay, sure.
I think, but a big thing is, I think I'd be okay with it if someone in the universe, if it was brought, like she might have some type of mental illness or disorder, or someone said, "Hey, who are you talking to?" Or like I could buy Deadpool. Deadpool seems like he's mentally, like he's got issues, right? He's
Right.
talking to us, the audience, and obviously he's narrating everything else. But it's still like he's crazy. Deadpool's crazy. He's talking to himself, and it just happens
Right.
to be us, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I think that She-Hulk needs that kind of thing too. And obviously, you don't want to be like, oh, she's got mental. I don't know. I just think
Well,
that
and
it's weird.
It's
It don't work.
interesting
It don't
because
work.
the meta universe she went into was obviously not our real one. It was obviously like a fictional, more highly advanced meta universe. So I wonder almost if that's ended up going to be just a different multiverse she was jumping or something like that instead of it, because it's that weird thing of being meta means like you're entering our world, but the world she entered was not our world. Very clearly, it was like a cartoonish fictionalized version.
That's kind of my hope and dream, honestly, is that the only thing I can kind of sit here and be like, it's okay because the multiverse is open. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, I can explain all the inconsistencies and the plot holes and all these things because every variation is like a different universe almost, and it feels like different universes. Every show feels like a different universe, and maybe that's kind of like them.
Maybe we don't. Maybe there's.
Maybe they are. That's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's maybe we'll get more clarity on that. Like, maybe one of these movies will come out and be like, maybe Secret Wars is pulling and maybe that'll make me feel better. Honestly, they pull She-Hulk from one universe and then like,
or it's just like, I mean, what if one of these universes was in a different version the whole time, but just the way they meant, because they all mentioned the Avenger. Like, but what if the Tony Stark they're actually mentioning is superior Iron Man?
Right, exactly.
And you don't find that out until the event kind of happens.
I agree. Like that would make me feel better. And if they did that, that would be a good. It could either be a great retcon or B that was their plan all along. If that's their plan all along, and if Kevin says it, I'll be like, "You're a genius, thank you." Like I forgive you again, Kevin.
You're so easily won back.
I can be, but that's an easy fix. That's an easy retcon because then I can watch all this stuff and be like, "Oh, it's like watching What If stuff." Like, "Oh, this is What If." Like, this is fine.
I just hope what if there's all the comedies are from one universe, and like because I will say every show that's a comedy just feels like it is so. Even to be fair, like Werewolf by Night is a bit. It feels like at times it's trying to be hokey comedic. You know what I mean? Even though I enjoyed it, that one could also that one feels more at home in a Miss Marvel She-Hulk universe than it does in a Falcon Winter Soldier WandaVision universe.
I agree. Again, this is us creating our own wishes and dreams and expectations. Right. I don't know if they're if I'm not saying they're not smart enough. They've done some great things, but I don't know if they're that smart or now that smart enough collectively.
Well,
to do that.
I just don't know what they're being guided by anymore. I would
I
say
don't
what felt
either.
like for the first saga, I felt like the guiding provision was, let's tell really cool stories and with really good, well-written characters. Like, let's just try to do good at storytelling. And yes, it's spectacle, and yes, it's whatever, but and we have to market it and stuff. But it just felt like the goal at all times was produce high quality content. And now it just feels like produce high quantity content. And
Yeah, part of that is the streaming game. And I think the other thing is too is that I do think there is a sense of they've got kind of free reign. They got a lot of budgets and they need content. And Kevin's like, hey, just throw stuff at the wall till it sticks, and we'll. And again, Secret Wars will reshape the universe. It will fix the universe. It will make one more universe when it's all said and done. So like that is an end game, right? So I guess maybe we just take our hits and, maybe they're seeing how it works and they'll cherry pick for Secret Wars or the whatever's after Secret Wars. Like, here's what stuck. Here's the tone of the new universe. We're going to kind of, I think it would be smart. Again, we hear reports are doing this Marvel presentation or like they're going to do more of those. Like Nova might be that now. And even the Wakanda show that Ryan Coogler's producing might just be like a 1 episode kind of thing, exploring the culture, and which I think is smarter. It's more contained and you control it. And again, I think if they were smart, that to me, see again, that's stuck in my head now, Daniel. I'm gonna wish and hope that's the thing until it doesn't happen now. But I'll say my biggest thing with the show is that I don't know, other than her having meta powers to do this, I don't know what Jennifer Walters, that or She-Hulk persona, I don't know what they did in the finale to get them to a place where, she is both now, right? I think Charlie Cox, basically in Daredevil, he's the one who kind of presented that idea, right? That she says in the end that it's like, I'm going to protect people that can't do it, legally, or whatever she says, right?
Yeah,
his same motto. So I mean, maybe it's like he put that in her head, but I don't think that. I think you needed like a physical thing or something. It doesn't have to be a big fight. I'm not saying that, but something to trigger in her to come to that realization, right? That's natural storytelling. Like the external meets the internal, and now we're at a new place from where we are at the beginning. And I don't think we got that.
And now the public just accepts her again. I mean, I guess if you're removing the blood plot line, you're removing the sex tape plot line. That just all didn't happen anymore. She never went to jail. There was no conflict. Like the conflict that set up the finale just disappeared, right? Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We don't even know why she's at Emil Blonsky's anymore, because she didn't have a reason to go, because she wasn't in jail and couldn't like, it's just like it just.
Well, again, it doesn't make any sense. It's
no, exactly, and I think it's
narrative
just,
breaking.
But it just robs the show of any conflict it did have. It just poofs it away, and I think you're right that it just like the beginning of the episode is her saying like, I thought I was getting this under control, but now it looks like I'm not, and I don't know what to do. And by the end of the episode, it's like, oh wait, I actually had it under control, like I did, and didn't need to doubt myself, I guess, and everything works out. Like it just is very like flat, And I just think like the barbecue scene was fine. I do think it was a little cringy too. Like some of those lines between her dad and Matt were like, oh no. Like
what,
he just
kids.
He feels like the Malcolm in the Middle like dad, but like more cartoon. Like it's like he's just such a fake feeling character. He never felt real. Right. Mom didn't either. But yeah, man, like I just the ending was just so flat for me. Like it just nothing was exciting. Nothing was cool other than like I guess like the concept of a character reveal, like that, like in theory that's cool, but again they did it in the most boring way possible. It's just
definitely the most boring way possible.
I think Travis may have said it, but like it is one of the most puzzling and like just in so many ways it fails to do what it's trying to do so equivocally. Like I haven't seen a season finale kind of like blow it like this in a while. It's hard. I mean, okay. Yes. Game of Thrones season 8. Yeah. Right. Like, I mean, like it's not. Listen, This was bad, but it did not commit a mortal sin as Game of Thrones did. Game of
We will
Thrones.
one day get the ability and the willpower to talk about it on the pod, but not today. That's not today.
No,
people.
no. I mean, I think, yeah, of course it's not that, but it's like the annoying third cousin of that. You know what I mean? Like that like you don't really care, you don't really give a shit, but God, it won't shut up. So yeah,
you're right. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, guys. I don't know. Again, there's things I still like about the show. It's puzzling. And part of it is like you could just also say this didn't happen, right? Like part of my headcanon is like she doesn't have the ability to do that. She just can't do that. It's just a thing that like Deadpool, she can just like talk to the audience. She can do stuff like that, but it actually doesn't have she's not really going to Kevin to like Kevin's not a real thing in the MCU, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Well, apparently a robot version of it is real in one of the universes. Yeah.
Maybe in one of the universes. I don't know how it works, honestly.
And I'll just throw this out here again. I think Jen Walters' acting was actually really good for the most part. I thought her reactions to things felt realistic. I thought her delivery was good. My issues are not with her as a character. My issues are what they had her do and say. Like 100%. That is like that to me is like I'm in fact interested in like the concept of a cool She-Hulk character. I just think this one just wasn't that.
I like her infinitely better than Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel.
I do too.
I still have my boy Moon Knight. But I mean, I could watch the She-Hulk movie. I mean, I could every day, every week.
And I think she has a good chemistry that could fit in well with a group. Like I think she has good on-screen chemistry, like just with almost anybody. I feels like she's pretty good.
I agree. She's fantastic. I like the character a lot. I just think they're using her poorly. Yeah, it's not even like granted, she's doing things she did in the comics, yes, and I get that, but like when it doesn't serve the character, it becomes an issue. You can't just do things to do things because you want to. Everything you do, even being meta, has to serve the character. But also that's the thing is too. They're not just serving the character anymore. They have to serve the universe, which is something we've been saying for a long time. And they've not been serving either, it seems like, in most cases.
Yeah.
And you have to do at least one or the other. And they're not, and they're not, and I think that's the kind of issue. Daniel, how can listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail. Let us know what you thought of She-Hulk, the She-Hulk finale. Did the meta stuff work for you better than us? What did you think? Where do you think we'll see She-Hulk in the future? Let us know. bit.ly/241mail.
And if you can't hit us up in our Bitly, you can always find us in the comment section below. youtube.com/Chick1Studio is the best place to keep us in the content. We have weekly podcast episodes there. Again, we're episode 138 coming up on our 3-year anniversary. We have a lot to look forward to. We have House of the Dragon, Rings of Power. We have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And, of course, very soon, actually next week, Black Adam comes out. And there's some honestly, it's wild. Right now, Batman and Black Adam are like the two DC things. I have a feeling Black Adam, it might not be the greatest thing ever. It may have weak plots. I don't know. I'm just assuming based on some of the reviews and everything else. But I bet it won't hurt the DC universe, right? They're already kind of so bad in a lot of ways that anything they do can kind of help it. Marvel, like they can only go up. So like even like decent is like good, right? So it's like it's an interesting dichotomy.
Is good. Yes.
Serviceable is good, right? As long as you're not breaking the universe and doing stupid shit, then it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm down for this. I'm down for more of this, right? You can maybe figure it out as you go. But
I mean, the press beats with The Rock are very fun. I mean, he keeps bringing up the Marvel DC crossover. Like in press beats.
It surprised me at this point, honestly.
I mean, I think that like if Marvel does that, they're gonna like have some pretty big demands because it feels like that would only benefit Sony and wouldn't really benefit Marvel at all.
Sony or Warner Brothers?
Sorry, that's what I meant. Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like I don't see how that would benefit. Like Marvel has all of the market share, the mind share. That would be like giving them a hand up.
It benefits them whenever, just like in the comics, whenever the comic sales are down. That's how it benefits them. So whenever they shit the bed enough and people stop watching this and stop doing this, then the conversation will become more realistic. It probably won't happen in Dwayne The Rock Johnson's time. I mean, it could happen in 20 years, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree.
But no, I'm excited to talk about Black Adam and all those other things we talked about. Daniel, thanks for talking She-Hulk with me. It's always a pleasure.
Indeed.
And I don't know. For every time Marvel picks me up, they also put me back down lately. It feels like so.
They're just trying to keep us humble, I guess, or to keep our reality in check.
We have one more thing this year. It's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and Guardians, the holiday special. Both of those still they can't disappoint me, even though Black Panther definitely could.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the Marvel. I don't have a lot of expectations for the holiday special anyway. It's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like I mean, werewolf by night kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think Black Panther's. It's
a lot of questions, but it's
never
also
going to be the thing that it could have been. So my expectations are severely lowered. So,
but I will say the trailers have been pretty fire for that though. They've been great
trailers.
Have been
great.
Namor stuff looks great. I'm interested just to kind of introduce that part of the world because that kind of feels like another just like Asgard we have never explored kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe the movies are their own universe and the TV shows are their own separate universe.
Yeah, except that doesn't work for Wanda has made a direct crossover.
I know it doesn't work. I just want to talk about it.
Okay.
And we feel better.
Okay.
Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.